Hi, hello, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it, and welcome back to Bookmas. I have always wanted to film one of these videos, and the time is upon us. We are in Bookmas. I remember watching Destiny's last year, loving it, and I recently watched Rereads, and I was like, you know what? It's about time. And we are deep into Bookmas now. We are a good couple days into Bookmas at this point, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to peel back a layer a little bit. I'm like an extremely type A, perfectionist type person. Like, I love having all of my books around me. I love when the lighting is perfect, and at this time in Canada, the lighting is just pretty much never perfect. I thought it would be fun to take a little step back, treat it a little bit more chit-chatty, and answer some end of the year book tag questions in like a more casual, top of mind kind of setting than like a clean recommendation video that I feel like I normally do, which is different for me. However, I have some big opinions on books for this year, so I thought we could have a little cozy night in, me and you. It's kind of like we're just like girl best friends on FaceTime together, or like getting popcorn ready to watch a movie. I love it. And we can drink some tea and spill the tea. However, I'm actually lying because I'm not a tea person in any way, shape, or form, and this is just water. But you get the image. I got the end of the year book tag questions from Destiny's video, so that will be linked down below. You should definitely check it out because this was the video that inspired this. However, I did change some of them around if I didn't have answers for them and add someone based on other things that I'd seen. We're gonna get right into it. We have some questions to get through. I think there's like 20 or so, and I haven't pre-planned for pretty much any of them, so we're going in top of mind, just what comes to mind, as if we're having a little bestie chat, because we are. We're starting off on a really strong note, a rather aggressive note, if I do say so myself. Most disappointing read of the year, and I can't even lie, the very first thing that comes to mind, The Veiled Kingdom. Okay, I feel like I was duped by that book. I feel like I thought that that was going to be such an immaculate enemies to lovers situation. It showed up and it was pretty short, and I was like, you know what, I still have faith. And then I read it and I was like, I had fun reading it. It was fine. And then I slept literally one night and I could look back and go, yep, not for me. I am not a hater to my core. I hate to say things negative about a book. However, the font is so big in that simultaneously literally nothing happens. I feel like it could have been 30 pages and I would have believed you if it was in like a more normal sized font. If you love a good enemies to lovers plot but don't really care about big enemies to lovers execution, that sounds me. However, then that would be the book for you. The plot's fine. Another one that is coming to mind, and don't kill me when I say that, is Reckless. It is. I did like it. I liked it. I almost said I loved it. I didn't love it. I think if all three of those books came out at the same time, that book would have like more room to breathe and I would hate it less. However, I was desperately waiting for that second one and it wasn't what I wanted it to be. However, I trust Lauren Roberts' vision and I'm excited for Fearless, and it wasn't bad. I just was disappointed by it, and that was the question. So, Underdog book of the year. I don't know. I feel like I'm still like semi-new to reading, and for the most part, I actually get most of my recommendations from creators as well. So I feel like a lot of the book that I read, for the most part, unless I like randomly see it in the bookstore and pick it up, which I very rarely actually end up reading those. So I should like really check in with that. I think it has something to do with the 22 series I am currently in the middle of, and authors that I love releasing things like clockwork. I just feel like I can't catch up on the TBR. So I feel like I haven't read a lot of underdog books, like books that I haven't heard a lot about and that I think should be more popular. That's a lie. Half a Soul is an underdog book. When I finished that book and I went to rate it on Goodreads, I was blown away by how few ratings it had, because that's like one of my favorite books of the entire year. Like in my top books of the year. I loved that book with everything in me. The perfect mix of like a Regency era fun fantasy time while also being like such an easy to understand world. It's kind of like unlike anything that I'd ever read. Like, I don't even really know how to put into words how that book made me feel. It's so silly and it's so quirky, but it's so beautiful, and the Regency era language makes it feel really important, and I feel like she tackled a lot in that series that I loved, but it's in such a fun way. I talk about Half a Soul all the time. That would be my underdog book of the year. But I do think that a lot of you guys have read it, and I feel like you guys are going to recommend it, and that book will continue to grow because it should. That series is so good. My boyfriend came to visit me not too long ago, and he showed up with a signed copy of the book because the author did a signing and left them at a bookstore in Montreal, and it's probably one of my most favorite gifts. A book you loved in the moment but don't think a lot about now. Oh, this one's gonna hurt. This one's gonna hurt because I really thought that I would think about this one, and I haven't thought about it a lot since finishing it, which makes me sad, but also excited for what's gonna come next. Funny story. I haven't thought about that book a lot since finishing it. I still stand on it was a 5 for me. Like, I can't fault anything in that book. I wouldn't have changed anything in it, and I did really get 5-star feelings in the end. That book really made me sob at the end. Like, really did make me sob. The journey of reading it, they weren't like my favorite couple I think Emily Henry has ever done, and I think so many of her other books just live like so much higher for me that I haven't thought about it a lot since, because I do genuinely think about beach read like pretty much every single day. Not to mention my bookshelves like face my bed, and that book is like facing outward every morning when I wake up, but it's a great reminder of how much I love it. Funny Story just didn't mean to me what her other books meant, and I think that's why I haven't thought about it a lot, but I did enjoy it. Like, I just didn't connect to it as much, and I haven't thought about it as much as I thought I would. Favorite book couples from the year. Emma and Justin from Dress of the Summer. Yeah, no question about it. I think about them constantly. It might might have a little something to do with the fact that I just got an advance copy of Say You'll Remember Me and I did read it yesterday. That'll be in a video that you're getting soon. Loved them with everything in me. The whole premise of Just for the Summer is just so quirky and fun, and it'll stab you in the back, just like Abby Jimenez does. Emotionally, stab you in the back. You're like having a good old fun time and then you're like, whoa, I'm crying. But Emma and Justin's relationship just resonated with me in a way that I can't really explain. Also, the couple in the 7-year slip. I resonated so much with Clementine. I think that's why I resonated with that book so much. I really should stop saying the word resonate, okay? I also feel like I've recently rediscovered the word immaculate and I've been overusing it. I've really noticed that in editing. We're gonna try and hold back that. Resonate is now the word of this video. I loved Clementine and cannot remember his name for the life of me's relationship. Don't let that deter you from the fact that they are literally one of my favorite couples of the year. Their relationship just like, it felt so soft and so sweet, and I really connected to Clementine. She seems like the type of person that is extremely sentimental, which is the type of person that I am. So I felt how she was feeling a lot and how it connected to them as a couple. Also, like, obviously honorary mention for Magnolia and BJ because Into the Dark came out, and it's the last time that I'll be able to say Magnolia and BJ in one of these questions because there won't be a new book from them. But that was an obvious one. A book you cannot stop recommending. Immediately, God of the Woods. God of the Woods by Liz Moore. That book changed me on a chemical level, and I cannot stop talking about it. I never make one book videos on TikTok, and I did make a one book video for that book because I loved it in a way that I really don't know how to explain. That book did so much more than I think I was expecting. I read it going in thinking it was a thriller. It's listed as a thriller, literary fiction, historical fiction. I would flip those. I mean, I don't really care how it's categorized. It is all of those things, but it's so heavy on the literary fiction, and the way that she portrayed so many individual personalities and point of views and characters, and because we're dealing with a kind of a crime investigation and we're in the eyes of people that it affects differently, every single person. Even just like one part of that book that just like really resonated with me and stuck with me were moments when the people investigating it, a missing young girl, were having a tough time with it because like they have people they love at home, and just that's I feel like a point of view I don't see often in books. It just felt very real, and it had a lot of like emotional impact on me. Like, it felt important, and I cannot stop recommending it to like people I know in real life as well as online. A book that surprised you this year. I feel like so many are coming to mind. No, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. That book really surprised me this year. You know what? That became like one of my favorite series of all time. I started it as an audiobook just kind of offhandedly. I didn't think I would ever like actually read it. I'd heard so much about it. I felt like I missed the craze on it, and I felt like it was gonna feel really YA. I'm not a huge fan of YA in general. Like, some YA fantasy just doesn't hit for me. Just really don't resonate with YA romance for the most part. There's some outliers, not a lot. I'm not a big YA romance girly. However, YA true crime-esque genre, YA mystery thriller, that I can get behind. I am always trying to fill the hole in my heart that The Naturals and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder left behind. And I feel like I just heard so much about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder as like people remembering it fondly, almost like how you remember reading Twilight, and I just didn't think it would be amazing. But someone recommended the audiobook to me and I started it, and you guys know I recommend that series all the time. It was a lot more emotionally developed than I was expecting. Like, the way that Pip's character devolved, for lack of a better word, for everything that she's gone through, felt very sophisticated for a YA series. Your new favorite author that you discovered in 2024? Ashley Poston. Yeah, Ashley Poston. A lot, but Ashley Poston. I have not read a word, a sentence, anything from her that did not resonate with me. There she was again saying the word resonate, that did not connect with me. I think if you really enjoy like the storytelling part of reading, Ashley Poston might not necessarily be for you because the way that she explains things, like, she goes around the bush, you know? But the way that she writes, if you appreciate lyrical writing and just like very nuanced, dramatic writing, I think Ashley Poston is for you. Like, she'll take the time to explain a feeling or explain something out in words that are very unnecessary but very beautiful. Number one auto-buy author from this year. Definitely added to the list with like Emily Henry, Olivia Blake, Jessa Hastings, Abby Jimenez, auto-buy authors, and Ashley Poston is like right up there with them. Your happiest read of the year. I feel like I don't leave a lot of books feeling happy a lot. I feel like I read a lot of emotionally devastating books, and there's something about literally every single book ending a little bit emotionally devastating. Even if it's a happy ending, it's like, but we went through all of that, remember? You know? You know what book I had a really good time with would be Ellen Hildebrand, Hotel Nantucket. That book was just straight gossip and straight fun, and I stand by the grannies. They were onto something because that book was so much more fun and gossipy than I was expecting. The most frustrating book you read in 2024, Quicksilver. Hear me out. I almost DNF'd that book. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I almost DNF'd that book. The beginning was fine. I was like, it's shaping up to be like a 4. The whole like middle portion, I was like, I'm gonna tear my hair out. Like, this is infuriating. I want to cry all over the place. And then the whole last 20% 5-star, the last like 5-10% 6-star, immaculate. That book was a definition of a roller coaster. However, it was hard to get through it. Like, I did not want to get through it. And then I read 200 pages in one sitting, and I went to bed at 4 in the morning. So that was frustrating. However, I understand why the book needed to do that. Like, I appreciate it. The longest book you've read this year. By sheer size alone, not going on page numbers, I want to say When the Moon Hatched. But how many pages is that? Because for some reason, I recall it's like 600. Yeah, it's only 576 pages. I feel like I read something that was longer than that. It must be thick paper because that book is like a dictionary size. On word count alone, it's probably the Atlas Complex. The edition of the Atlas Complex I have is 496 pages long. However, it is so dense with words, it's not even crazy. Like an immensely dense book. Oh, obviously, Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. That book was 700 pages of pure gold, but yeah, 700 pages. On the flip side, the shortest book I read this year, not including novella, probably same time next summer, or Summer Romance by Animal Monahan. Immaculate, but I think those are probably the shortest. Maybe I should have done some page counting before getting into this. Actually, honestly, maybe The Veiled Kingdom. Actually, based on page count alone, I'm pretty sure Half a Soul is under 300, but the font's pretty small. A book you cannot stop thinking about. Easy answer, Into the Dark, obviously. Hard answer, if I really thought about it, because I'm just constantly always thinking about Magnolia and BJ and Daisy and Christian, but that might have to do with the fact that I'm also constantly listening to it and have now consumed the first 2 books 3 times. I think about The 7-Year Slip a lot. Like anytime I sit down to make a recommendation video, I have to pull myself away from recommending that. I think about When the Moon Hatched a lot also, because I need to know what's going to happen next. Like really genuinely need to know what's going to happen next. An unpopular book that you loved this year. 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater, which is the second book in the Regency Fairy Tale series, which was arguably just as good as Half a Soul, was still a 5-star read, and it's been dramatically less read than Half a Soul and is just as good and such a different take. It's a very opposite look at like the complex existence of fairy to the world that we live in. It's like the other side of the coin, and it really was a tearjerker for me. Yeah, it made me feel a lot of things, and the main character in that book really made me feel a lot of things. I think it has like a couple thousand reviews, and it's so good. This one I actually did look up so that I was ready, but what was the highest and lowest rated books you read on Goodreads this year, and do you agree? The highest rated, like straight on ratings for this year, was Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. However, that book is not out yet, so that makes sense that it would be the highest. Same thing with Say I Remember Me. Those were like the 2 highest. However, they haven't been read by the general public yet, so it makes sense that they would be so highly rated. So for not including those, the highest would be The Blood Trader by Lynette Noni, which is shocking to me, literally shocking. I like that series. I loved the story in that series. The writing style was so not for me. A big thing with that book is it will tell you something and not show you something. So many of the like twists and fun things with that book would happen in a way that was like, oh, okay, well, we could have discovered that in a way that was not a conversation. The story was really unique and fun. I cannot believe it's rated as high as it is. Not that it doesn't deserve it, because it was a good book. And like of the 100+ books that I read this year, that was the highest. Crazy. And then the lowest rated, this actually shocked me because I have not heard any of these people's opinions on my corner of the internet in any way, shape, or form, was The Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake. And I was reading the reviews. I understand it's a huge, dense book, and she really does tangentially tell you things and repeat things, and just, it's Olivia Blake. It's gonna be complex, it's gonna be convoluted, she's probably gonna use more words than she has to use, but it has a 2.87, and I gave that book 6 stars. So yeah, no, I don't agree, I guess, with the average rating on that one. Your most quotable books from the year, Into the Dark, obviously. Summer Romance by Animal Monahan. I loved the way that Animal Monahan wrote. She writes like if Jessa Hastings and Ashley Poston could cut the shit a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I love the fun, flowery writing. I do, with everything in me. Animal Monahan had these like snippy one-liners that were just as quotable and highlightable, but they were just like really snappy, and her stuff looped around a lot. Like, she had like these sayings, like inside jokes you would get throughout her book that is unlike anything that I've ever read. I have many pictures of Animal Monahan quotes on my phone. Also, to switch it up just like a teeny tiny bit, the Dead Romantics from Ashley Poston I think is such an unsung hero from her repertoire, because the way that she wrote in that and like the messaging in that book I felt like was really strong. And I do think about some of the quotes in that book a lot. There are so many quotes in the 7-Year Slip that I genuinely think about, like remember. You know what's crazy? I was listening to Magnolia Park for the 3rd time, and there was a big quote. Magnolia's like big loving him was quote, and I was listening to it on audio, walking down the street in downtown Toronto at like 1 in the morning, walking chance, sobbing my little eyes out and mouthing the quote along. Like, that's how well I knew it. Book with the most unique concept. I still want to say God of the Woods, because that was conceptually immaculately done. If we're talking unique concept in like something new, Phantasma was a very interesting one. It was like Dark Caraval, which does sum it up but doesn't do it justice. Just like Serpent and the Wings of the Night is Hunger Games but make it vampires. Like, that does sum it up, but it doesn't sell it in the way that it should as a tagline. Books that you would reread from this year. 9,000 June Fair are on that list because I read them at a time that was right book, wrong time. Like, I just wasn't in the mental headspace to take everything I could out of them. 9,000 still was a 5-star. Like, I could really sit back from that book and like remember things retroactively that I was like, yeah, no, that story was executed to perfection. However, I would love to feel more for it. June Farrow, I know, is a book that I wouldn't critique as hard as I did. Like, even just like conceptually, I was in the right headspace to read it. Like, I'm very easy to be like, it doesn't really have to add up. Does it make me feel something? And I was just not in the right headspace for it. Also, like, I think I'll do a 7-Year Slip reread next year. This is more chit-chatty than it is a question and answer, but your reading goal reflections and my 2025 reading goal. My reading goal for this year on Goodreads was 75. Accomplished a pretty long time ago. In my head, it was 100. Like, I wanted to read 100 books in a year because I'd never done that before. I'd never like been doing this full time. We're past 100 books now. I think I'm at like 105 right now, although I haven't added them to my Goodreads a minute. I think that I will in 2025 make it 100 because I was like on track to hit the 75 like ahead of it. I was on track to hit 100 pretty much every single month. So I think I will make it 100. I don't want to make it too high because I hate to fail myself. It does something to me mentally to see an unfinished task or unfinished number, but I feel like 100 is accomplishable. So we're gonna do 100, which is crazy. If you told 13-year-old Maddie that she read 100 books in a year, she would have never believed you. 13-year-old Maddie would have made my Goodreads reading goal like 13. However, 13-year-old Maddie did give up reading because she saw her mother read Breaking Dawn in a weekend and was like, I will never read that fast. I also got tested for reading related things because of how bad of a reader I was, but I was also born the last day of the year. So I was a full year younger than most of my class. So not actually the last day of the year, almost the last day of the year, December 28th. And you could see it in my reading abilities. After 2024, what are you going to be prioritizing reading wise in 2025? I honestly feel like I'm pretty happy with where I am reading now. I feel like at some point this year, I did start to diversify a little bit more. And I found that I find like a lot of value for me personally in like books that I never thought that I would pick up. Like God of the Woods was a really good example of a book that I probably would have never picked up if I hadn't seen a couple of TikToks really like raving about it, but I took so much out of. I feel like I want to read more literary fiction going into the new year. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. I will always be a romance fantasy girly to my core. However, the books I feel like that make me feel the most, they're more like a literary fiction, historical fiction are more likely to be like realistic. Like this is just like slice of life, good or bad kind of energy, versus a romance is always going to be like the flowery falling in love part. But I feel like I take a lot out of like more lit fic heavy romances and stuff. So I definitely want to try more in the new year's. I also want to like calm down a little bit with like my own personal goals that I set for myself. I think next year I'm going to do away with the posting schedule of posting every single Sunday because it's kind of ruined reading for me a little bit. I've noticed recently, a lot of my friends noticed it before I noticed it, but I was big on like, okay, I have to finish by this day because I have to have the time to edit it, to make it the way I want it to look, to get up for Sunday. That every single week for a really long time. And I kind of want to just post the video when it's done, edit it in my own time, and not like, plan is not to be posting less, but to be posting like more in real time than like planning out for every single Sunday, because it was just something that was stressing me out and it made the reading part not as fun. So I really in 2025 I want to get back to like, this is my hobby, this is the thing I love doing more than anything in the world, and I want it to feel like that at like 100%, because I'm probably at like 95% right now. I have times that are 100. It does start to stress me out sometimes if I'm not reading as fast as I should be, so I want to be nicer to myself about that in 2025. And on that note, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me just chit-chatting. End of the year book tag. I cannot believe that we are almost in 2025. We're reaching the end of 2024. Obviously there's still more books to be read in December. However, we'll do the next one December to December maybe, but this is like most of the books that I have read in the year. And I'm also probably forgetting a lot, so I wanted to do this a little bit more chit-chatty, casual FaceTime energy than like really regimented, these are the books in front of me. I've never filmed a book video without actually having the book. It was kind of fun just like chatting tangentially about it. I will leave all the questions down below if you want to make your own. Destiny's video is also linked down below because she's 100% the person that inspired this. Let me know if you guys have read any of these and if you agree with how I felt about them, or if you disagree strongly with me about something, because I would love to hear about it, because that's what makes reading fun, is that we all have such different experiences with books. Also, let me know if any of these answers made you add any books to your TBR, because you know that's my favorite pastime, convincing you guys to spend your hard-earned money on a book that I really, in my heart of hearts, think will make you feel a lot of things. It's really the best part of this job. And now that the tea has been spilled, water, that might actually be a metaphor for how much tea was really actually spilled in this. I hope to see you in the next one tomorrow, because this is Bookmas. Love you. Bye. I feel like I'm gonna go to edit this and I'm gonna be like, you forgot 112 really good answers to those questions.